Do you remember Danger Mouse? That was a good show, I tell you. And that rodent would be so into what we're going to talk about today. And why? Well, it's all about danger. It does seem mad that wrestlers would do this, as you can choose to do whatever you want in the ring, but hey, mad respect to them, and please do subscribe, because here are the 10 most dangerous WWE matches ever. Number 10, Mankind vs. The Rock at the 1999 Royal Rumble. This Mick Foley man, while a lot of people misunderstood him, he totally knew how to garner sympathy, which was through utter pain. He would both give and take some serious blows, and look at the end result. One of the greatest baby faces ever. It doesn't mean it was always fun to watch. This Royal Rumble match has been spoken about ever since because, yeah, while The Rock and Mankind had decided to lay in these chair shots, it was only meant to be a few. We can ruin Foley's head with the less is more approach. It did not go that way. Instead, it sounds like the People's Champion got carried away and smacked Mick about 11 times, and each one of these was worse than the last. By the time we got to the final couple, it was way over the line. Should never have happened. Foley also had his hands handcuffed behind his back, so was taking these full on in the skull, and even he regrets this because of course you would. With what we know about concussions these days too, sheesh. If you do want the real story, watch the Behind the Mat documentary as you get Mick's family's reaction to it too, because they just so happen to be in the crowd. It does not make for fun watching. Never again. Number 9, Edge and Christian vs. the Hardy Boys at No Mercy 1999. What the hell was going on in 1999? Clearly wrestlers decided going nuts was the way, and the risks multiplied from nowhere. It does make sense, kinda sadly, because the business was booming to such a degree, young stars realized if they could make enough noise, they'd make their way up the card. Say hello to the Hardys, Edge and Christian. For starters, this was a ladder match before WWE went crazy with them, so it had a real unique quality to it, and these four decided to take all the other ones the promotion had done and blow them out the water. Even though No Mercy was headlined by Triple H vs. Stone Cold Steve Austin, this is all people were talking about after the fact. You likely wouldn't understand the danger today just because it's been surpassed, but that's due to what they did here. Flying off ladders, into ladders, under ladders. If it was going to get a reaction, it was on the table. Safety be damned. The peak was Jeff Hardy jumping off one ladder onto another as Edge laid there waiting for death, and this was replayed for months. How they all walked away unscathed, I will never know. That's always the way. Somehow, WWE's injury record for these type of scraps is surprisingly low. Number 8, Shawn Michaels vs. The Undertaker at the 98 Royal Rumble. Shawn Michaels did it all. Championships, main events, 5-star matches. There is a reason he is called one of the best ever. Just through longevity and his style, he was always going to suffer some injuries, but none were worse than what happened at the 1998 Royal Rumble. In the now infamous casket match with The Undertaker, the dead man grabbed the Heartbreak Kid and lobbed him onto the coffin, and he took such an over-the-top bump, he essentially shattered his back on landing. Yep. If you go back and watch it, you won't even blink, but as we know, 2 months later, Michaels would go into retirement, and we all thought he was done. That is not good. The fact he finished this thing is even more nuts, and he went all the way to WrestleMania 14, and the surgery to sort this took 4 hours. So always remember this, wrestling is dangerous. Number 7, Eddie Guerrero vs. JBL at Judgment Day 2004. Flub me, this was bad. Just to catch you up to speed in case you don't know, yes, when wrestlers bleed, they often get a blade and slice their own forehead. It's a horrible practice, and non-wrestling fans will look at you like you're scum when you tell them this is the correct way to be. The problem, of course, is that there's no science to it. You're just taking a razor blade and nicking your forehead, so after, as planned, JBL had smashed Eddie with a chair, he did exactly this. The thing is, with his adrenaline being at 9,000, Guerrero went way too deep, and man, the amount of red stuff that came out of his head was horrifying. It poured for so long it started to congeal too, which made it worse, and as it turned out, Latino heat had cut an artery. An artery! Surprise, surprise, he came all lightheaded and could barely see due to the amount of blood, and honestly, once again, let's never do it ×2. I suppose it added to the match, but when you know the truth, scary. Really, really scary. Number 6, Bart Gunn vs. Butterbean at WrestleMania 15. Why did we think this was a good idea? Well, I'll tell you. After Bart Gunn had surprised everybody when he won the Brawl for All, WWE got mad. As it was a shoot fight tournament, they hoped Dr. Death Steve Williams would get the W, so when he didn't, somebody had to be punished, and that person was Bart Gunn. It was dumb. Really, we should have just pivoted and pushed the guy, but instead, WWE hired Butterbean to take on Gunn in a boxing match at WrestleMania. And Do you want to know why this was insane? Because Butterbean was a professionally trained boxer. And sure, he was somewhat of a circus fighter, but who cares? Gunn wasn't in this bracket, so shockingly, as soon as the bell rung, Butter whammed him so hard he fell down and was out cold. It still looks awful. If you need more proof, just go and watch the thing as to why this was dangerous, and it ruined Bart's career. There was no coming back from this, and he was released soon afterwards. It is totally unfair. Number 5, the 4-way ladder match at Armageddon 2006. So look at this bizarre tandem. At the 2006 Armageddon, Paul London and Brian Kendrick took on Eminem, who took on William Regal and Dave Taylor, who took on the Hardys. Plus it was a ladder match. WWE's tag team scene often goes off the rails. You'll also notice that's a lot of people for a ladder match, and because everybody was leaping around instantly, these climbing tools became a problem. Just ask Joey Mercury. Because when a bunch of ladders were set up like a seesaw, Jeff Hardy leapt onto the pile, and when it flew upwards, it smashed Joey in the skull so hard his face exploded. I'm not joking. Looks horrible. The official diagnosis was it crushed his orbital bone and broke his nose in 4 places. And listen to what Mercury himself said about it. I have 5 stitches on the inside of my nose and my cheek, and 15 stitches on the outside of my nose and cheek. My left eye is swollen shut, and I have continual internal bleeding from my nose and my eye. Doesn't sound good, does it? And the fallout could have been so much worse than it was. He also had to leave the match immediately, though, which is a rarity. Just horrible. Number 4, Triple H and Steve Austin versus Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho on the May 21st, 2000 Raw. Triple H is one tough son of a gun. This match has gone into wrestling folklore now due to what happened to the game, but yeah. When he went to break up a pin courtesy of Chris Jericho, as soon as he planted his foot, Hunter's quad came tearing off the bone. This is not good. Describing it as feeling like somebody had taken a hot welding iron and pushed it into his leg. He even felt the muscle roll up his thigh. I will tell you right now, I never want to experience that. Triple H even told this to the ringside doctor, who essentially replied that he was totally wrong because nobody does that to their quad, and yet this guy finished the match. As it is a leg injury, I think we overlook this, but it absolutely could have ended his career. The rehab was brutal. The real what the hell moment is when the King of Kings tells Chris to apply the walls of Jericho on the table as planned, and can you imagine the pain? The answer is no, unless you're the dude getting stretched. I don't think anybody can. And why the flub would you want to anyway? Number 3, Edge vs. Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22. I mean, they set a table on fire. The end. I'm not sure whether you know, but fire is nobody's friend. Not like it's aware it's in a wrestling match, so plays nice. If anything goes wrong, that's it, you're dead. Hence why this was potty. I suppose this was always on the cards as it was a hardcore match. We know Foley is constantly looking for ways to outdo himself. That's why even before the flames, he hurls himself into Simba the Steel Steps head first. You've never seen anybody else take it like that. Radar Superstar wanted some of this too when he gets whacked with a barbed wire bat. And one way or the other, that just hurts. Go look at his face when he also gets hit with the barbed wire mandible claw. Actually gives me the heebie-jeebies. This stuff doesn't get discussed because, yeah, Edge does set up a table with Lita pouring lighter fluid on the thing before setting it ablaze as Edge spears Mick off the apron into this mess. Again, go look into their eyes. Horrendous. WWE personnel zoomed in to extinguish this too, which sums it up. Not sure we do this today. Controversy would be huge. Number 2, Owen Hart versus Steve Austin at SummerSlam 97. While we all know this story, it is still terrifying. During this match, Steve Austin broke his neck and really would never be the same again. It shortened his career and in the moment could have paralyzed him. As Owen Hart and Stone Cold were putting their match together, Hart suggested the sit-down version of the Tombstone Piledriver. Austin asked him to go with the regular one, which Owen allegedly agreed to, and then nope. He did it anyway. You can see this no matter what angle you watch it from, as when Hart falls to the mat, Steve's head is quite clearly not protected, meaning it gets spiked into the floor. Instantly, you can tell something is wrong because the rattlesnake cannot move. It is scary to see. As all wrestlers are bonkers, Stone Cold still performed the worst roll-up you've ever seen to get the planned victory. That was the least of anybody's concerns. Austin has said many a time he thought this was it. It is important to highlight this because on paper it didn't seem that dangerous at all. It was just 2 top workers having a singles match. But therein lies the point. I've said it once, so I'll say it twice. Wrestling is dangerous, people. so please be careful. Number 1, Mankind versus The Undertaker at the 1998 King of the Ring. You knew this was coming surely, and here's why. Slap your head. Mick Foley could have died. Let's not pretend otherwise. Amazingly, it's the less talked about second bump that opened this door, although the first one is still unreal. Within seconds, Mankind and The Undertaker are fighting on top of the Hell in a Cell when the dead man grabs Mick and throws him to the floor below. 25 years later, and I still can't believe it. I use these words loosely, but Foley does land as perfect as anybody could have done, although the list of injuries even at this point was obscene. I mean, he ruptured his kidney on impact. Because they're crazy, they then go back up when, yep, Taker chokeslams Mankind into the mesh where the roof gives way. Flub me sideways. This is why it is this fall which is so awful. That was not meant to happen, meaning Foley crashes into the old school WWF ring as a chair also lands on his face. You ever wonder why there's a tooth sticking out of his cheek? He got wrecked. The war continued with more weapons and thumbtacks, and let's face it, Mick Foley just isn't human. How he continued I never know, but what a dude. But the fallout was bad. Even Vince McMahon went to him and said he's never allowed to do anything like this again. It's an absolutely insane battle, and I'll tell you right now, it will never be topped. Know of any other super dangerous matches that happen in WWE? Make sure you let us know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read lists like this with your eyes. Social media at Simon316 and What Culture WWE. And look, there's other videos on the channel. One is looking at you right now. I would implore you to give it a click. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for joining me as always. Know that I love you with all my heart and soul, and I will talk to you again very soon.